All right, let's get into it. Today, we've got a classic David versus Goliath story, but this one's playing out in the world of artificial intelligence. And it's a story that really makes you question one of the biggest assumptions we have about AI.
You hear it all the time, right? In AI, the thinking has always been that bigger is better. More data, more parameters, more computing power. But is that really always the case? Today, we're going to put that idea to the test.
So on one side of the ring, we have the Goliaths. We're talking about the massive models you already know, like Meta's Llama, Google's Gemma, and Alibaba's Qwen. These are the absolute titans of the industry, the ones designed to do pretty much anything you can think of.
But what happens when you take these huge all-purpose models and throw them at a really specific, really high-stakes problem? Well, that's exactly what we're going to look at. Let's set the stage for this competition. The arena for this showdown? It's the world of political conflict analysis. And this is a field where you absolutely cannot afford to be wrong. Accuracy and reliability are everything.
So here's the challenge. Researchers are just drowning in text. They have to wade through millions of news reports, trying to turn all that messy, unstructured language into clean, organized data so they can actually track and understand global violence. For a human, this is an incredibly slow, painstaking job.
The actual process has a name: event data coding. It's pretty straightforward. First, you have to filter out all the noise and just find the relevant articles. Then, inside those articles, you pinpoint the specific events. And finally, you have to annotate all the key details. Who did what to whom, and where and when did it happen? This is the exact task we're giving to our AIs. And now, it's time to meet our David. See, instead of another giant all-purpose AI, we've got a highly trained specialist. And this is where a really important difference in AI philosophy comes into play.
This brings us to a crucial distinction. Those giant models like Llama, they're generative. You can think of them like a Swiss Army knife. They're super versatile. They can do a million different things. Our specialist, on the other hand, is an extractive model. It's not a Swiss Army knife, it's a surgeon's scalpel, designed to do one single thing with incredible precision.
And that surgeon's scalpel has a name: Conflict. Now, unlike the giants who were trained on, the entire internet, Conflict was fed a very specific, highly curated diet of over 33 gigabytes of text, just about political conflict and violence. It is a true expert in its field.
So the stage is set. We've got our Goliath and our David. Let's put them to the test and see what happens. We're going to compare them on three really important metrics: accuracy, speed, and of course, reliability. First up, accuracy. The task was to classify different types of terrorist attacks just from reading the text. And just look at these F1 scores. Remember, higher is better here. Our specialist, Conflict, clocks in at 0.74. Now look at the giants. The best one, Qwen, only managed a 0.40. Llama and Gemma were even lower. I mean, it is not even close. That's a decisive win for the specialist right out of the gate. Okay, so accuracy is one thing, but when we get to speed, well, the difference is just absolutely mind-blowing. Take a look at this. Conflict chewed through each document in a tiny fraction of a second. The giant Qwen model, it took over a full second. Now, that might not sound like a huge difference, but imagine scaling that up to millions of documents. You are literally looking at the difference between a few hours of work and several months of computation. It's a total game changer. So our little specialist is more accurate, and it's wildly faster. But what about reliability? Well, this is where the researchers found a really critical flaw with the giants. They discovered that despite being given very clear, explicit instructions, the big generative models just didn't follow them. They even started making stuff up, inventing new, incorrect data categories that nobody asked for. So while the giants were being, creative but wrong, Conflict showed what the study called perfect discipline. It produced 0 invalid labels. None. For any kind of serious research, that kind of rock-solid reliability is completely non-negotiable. The verdict is in, and it's a knockout. A clear win for the specialist. But look, this isn't about one AI being good and the others being bad. It's about a much more fundamental lesson in technology. You have got to use the right tool for the job. So what's the big takeaway here? Well, first, bigger isn't always better, that's for sure. Second, specialization really matters. Deep training on a specific subject can let a much smaller, much more efficient model completely run circles around the giants on his home turf. And this suggests that the future of AI isn't just a race to build the biggest models, but maybe to build the smartest, most focused ones.
And that kind of leaves us with one last fascinating question to think about. We've seen a specialist win in conflict analysis. So what other fields out there, we're talking medicine, finance, law, have their own conflict bird just waiting in the wings, ready to prove that sometimes smaller really is smarter?